Good morning, lovely to see you. I thought it important that I just say something about what's happening to church in the light of our Prime Minister's announcement yesterday. I wish I could be specific, but it's all a little bit up in the air. I think it's a great sadness, and it is something for us all to pray for the godless state of the nation, that in his announcement, when he was flagging up key things, he gave no reference whatsoever to any sort of religious gathering. And I'm absolutely gobsmacked by that. Regardless of whether you have Christian faith or not, there are many people in our nation that have a religious faith that is really, really important to them. And for the government to make an announcement about lockdown and make no mention of that in any shape or form in his speech is just appalling. We need to pray for the godless state of our government, that they are quickened to realise that religion is a deeply significant part of our existence. And as Christians, we believe that particularly. And I'm struck by words that I've heard one or two people mention, that Jesus said in response to the devil's temptation to him in the wilderness before he started his public ministry was, "Man shall not live by bread alone." And so as long as shops are open to provide food, churches should be open in some shape or form to provide spiritual nourishment for those in search of it. And so the proposal for lockdown is going to be debated in Parliament, I think it's on Wednesday, before actual procedures come into force. You might want to write to your MP about what should be said to do with churches. If you look on the government website for lockdown from the 5th of November, you will see it does mention religious ceremonies in passing. And I think it's in section 5. I put an extract of it up on our Facebook page, and I've emailed it around to people with email. And there is very limited provision for meeting together as Christians. Precisely what is meant by "we can come to church for private prayer" is something that will be debated. And I hope the Church of England take a strong line on it. I cannot personally see what the difference between you gathered here for private prayer next Sunday and me saying nothing, and you gathered here for private prayer next Sunday, led in some shape or form by a live person at the front. Depending on what happens in the debate about what shape or form churches can be open next Sunday, first of all, I want to say we will be open at 10:30 next Sunday. If we're allowed, at the moment, in that rather vague description for private prayer, we will most definitely be open. Whether it's somebody live at the front leading it, or whether it's a pre-recording which you can watch, there will be some shape or form to that time of private prayer. I can't really say much beyond that at the moment to sort of guide you in what's going to happen. But I hope in your heart and your prayer, we were talking about responding to prayer as prompted by the Spirit. We are prompted to bring religious faith to the surface of what is going on in our nation at the present time. We are in complete denial about life and death. And the country is being encouraged to watch Strictly Dancing and binge out on box sets and do sorts of creative things and do keep fit. And there is no mention in the media about religious faith and what part that has in giving us hope. Next week, whether you watch it on here or whether I'm allowed to say something in public, I will be saying what Christian hope is. It's Remembrance Sunday next Sunday. And the reality is, as Christians, we grieve and are upset like anybody else. But Paul, in our reading next week, points to the Christian hope we have. John mentioned it briefly in passing this morning, that we're being kept for something special. We're being kept for Christ's return. We're being kept for glory. And that isn't hope in pie in the future. That hope of what we stand for and look forward to in the future impacts the way we live now and the courage we have in the face of terrible things now. This is not going to come easily to us. Just think of Egypt holding the people of God slaves for 430 years. And Jude mentions it briefly. God drew the people of Israel out of captivity. What did it take for that to happen? Plague upon plague upon plague. And even that when the Pharaoh did let them go, he changed his mind and ran after them. Bringing Christian faith and hope to the surface isn't going to come easily. We have a great hope in a God that can work miracles and can transform hearts and bring us to Christ. Let me pray. Father God, we thank you for those who give so much of their time to help us through these difficult times of COVID-19. We thank you for all those who are trying to find out what is going on and what might help in the physical realm. Let's never diminish all their efforts, Father, for the National Health Service and all those things. But they can give no hope beyond that damning condemnation. There is nothing more we can do for you. And the sadness and grief that comes upon the world at that point. But you give us hope beyond the grave. May that shape our hope day to day, that we might be children of hope as well as your children. Whatever we're doing this week, Father, may we do it courageously. May we be willing to mention the hope that is within us. And please, in your mercy, Lord, may religious faith, Christian faith, bubble to the surface, for that is the hope our nation